guys, welcome back to Swera TV. I'm Rata Pata, your usual host with the most. We are continuing with basic accounting for business leaders. So last week we actually discussed cost of sales. This time we're going to get into the expenses. Now if you actually look, we're still doing the income statement of the financials, by the way. Okay, so last week we actually discussed the cost of sales, what cost of sales mean and what cost of sales can do. You know, I was getting a lot of questions about the formula that I used for the cost of sales. I'm like, no, I didn't use a formula. There is a formula that is used, but that's not for you. That's for the accountant to know. Okay, but what I was explaining was just explaining to you what that formula basically entails. It's just basically the cost of what you're selling. That's just what mainly it is. Okay, now who decides what the cost of what you're selling is? It's you, of course, the seller. You should be able to inform the accountant on what your costs look like when you need to be selling this product. But what the accountant will do is that the accountant will guide you. They'll guide you and say, no, me, if you are selling maize, this is actually would be possibly your cost. They will ask you, what are the costs involved for you to be able to reach a sales stage of your maize, for instance. Yeah, so they'll just guide you. Okay, what did you put in there? What did you do? Let's start from scratch. What did you do to end up having the final product of maize to be ready for sale? So that's when they'll guide you in terms of the costs involved directly with the cost of maize, for instance. Okay, so it's super important for us to actually understand the costing involved and the sales pricing involved. So today I'm going to be discussing the expenses. Yeah, just of course putting in the disclaimer before we get into our topic for today. We're going to be discussing the expenses. The disclaimer is that this information, it is not technical, it is not necessarily for accountants to use, but this is basically for business leaders to use. Accountants, we do get a little bit more technical. This is supposed to be simplified. The formulas and all that is not for the business leaders. It is for us, the accountants, for us to interpret. Okay, so we're just simplifying the books for the business leader to interpret and be able to basically ask us questions on what to ask us when we are presenting the financials to a business leader. So it's very important as a business leader for you to understand your pricing. It's very important to understand your financials, to understand your books. Basically, what are you doing? And you need to be able to ask your accountant, okay, what is going on here? What does this mean? What does that mean? And you need to be able to ask with some level of understanding as well, so that when they speak their terms, you're just like, no, I can't hear what you mean. What do you mean by here? Yeah, so that's the disclaimer. It's mainly for business leaders. It's simplified. It is not technical. You do not use this information to try and come up with your books. No, this is for accountants to do. Please hire an accountant if you need help with your books. All right. So today we're going to be discussing expenses. Now, on the income statement, when you look at the income statement, there is sales revenue, then there's the cost of sales, which will produce you the gross profit, which will also calculate the margins that you probably used with direct costs as to your sales. So this is what I discussed last week, that those are the questions that you should be able to ask your accountant as well. All right, so now let's talk about the expenses. Now, right after the gross profit, there is now what you call the expenses of the business. This will be both fixed costs as well as variable costs. Yeah, so the expenses will vary according to the business that you're running. It will come from probably advertising, it will be electricity, it will be water, it will be anything, telephone expenses, it could even be petrol expenses, it could be anything. All the expenses that are directly or that are not necessarily directly involved in your business, but that are involved in your business, will all be listed down there. So now all these expenses, once they've been deducted from the gross profit, you'll see within the structure of the income statement, once they've been deducted from the gross profit, then you get what you call your net profit before tax, or your net loss before tax. All right, so this is now how you are able to see whether you are break-evening, whether you are making a loss, or whether you are making a profit with your business. All right, now there will be other costs such as depreciation. Okay, what is depreciation? Basically, what depreciation is, when you have assets. Let's say you have a car, right? So we, as accountants, we also need to put in a depreciation. Basically, the car loses value as it grows, right? As the time comes, it loses the value. So we need to be able to calculate an estimate of how much that car is going to lose value, and it is a cost to the company. Okay, so those are the costs that only an accountant would understand and how to calculate. Right, so that is the technical stuff. That is why you will need an accountant to help you to come up with your own books. You can't come up with your own financials even if you have an accounting app that you are currently using. All right, you cannot come up with your own financials. You cannot be able to come up with your own management accounts that are accurate. The people that will draw it accurately for you are accountants. Please hire an accountant to do that for you. You need one for you to run a profitable business that will create wealth for you and your family. Okay. All right, so there will be other costs such as depreciation. I've explained what depreciation is. Basically, it's just as just calculating the exact, more or less the exact value of that asset that you will have as time goes on. So there will be a percentage that will be deducting from that asset that is an expense to the company, that this asset that we have bought has actually lost value every single year or every single month. This is on the for the management account perspective. All right, and other expenses as well that will come in that you wouldn't necessarily know how to calculate would be the bank charges for the business as well. That will be involved and will be captured by the accountant when they're doing your financials and your management accounts. Bank charges are also affect your profits because those are charges inside your bank. So those are one of the things that you need to look at as well as a business leader when you are actually asking your accountant and looking at the income statement, or oh, my bank charges are so high, why are my bank charges so high? And you're able to even zoom in. They can even calculate for you and show you a detailed list of how your bank charges look monthly, and you should be able to take that up with your bank and find out why your bank charges are so high. We actually have discussed bank statements before, but now you need to be able to look at your income statement and say, why are my bank charges so high? Could maybe the possibilities are that your bank is an expensive bank to transact with. Yeah, so those are the areas for you to look at. Maybe it's time to change your bank, or maybe you transact too much. Maybe there's too much transactions going on, therefore they just charge. So instead you need to plan your expenses well in advance so that you don't transact too much within a month, so that the bank charges don't hit you that hard. These are the advices that your accountant has to advise you on, that you need to be able to look into and just be able to say, okay, how are my costs looking? All right, another cost that you will have, possibly advertising, marketing and advertising. Go into it. If it looks too high, go into it and actually discuss it with your accountant and say, why is your marketing expenses so high? And you should be able, as a business leader as well, to be able to say, you know, they're high because we're trying to really position ourselves in the market. This is why our marketing costs are so high, and you need to be able to also measure whether your marketing has actually impacted your sales. There is a way to do that as well, and your accountant will guide you and be able to say, could you kindly just show me how this marketing has impacted your sales? They need to be able to see, and you need to be able to show them as the business owner, when we actually spent 20,000 on marketing, this is the revenue that actually came through for us because of this campaign that we did, or this marketing campaign that we did. So those are the things that you need to be able to ask the accountant to help you establish, and the accountant will also ask you to establish, so that you can get to a point where you understand your expenses and why you're making losses and why you're making certain profits, or why you are break-evening. Now, I think I didn't actually describe what break even is. I'm sure you know when you're making a loss what that means. It means your expenses are more than your sales. Yeah, so that means you're going to definitely make a loss. And then when you're making a profit, that means your sales are more than your expenses. You're making a good profit, everything is looking good. And then when you're break even, that means your expenses are exactly like your sales. And normally this happens in business. One of the things that you need to be able to know as a business leader as well, you need to know and understand that there's a certain point I'm going to be making losses, and you need to understand why you'll be making losses for those first few months or first few years of the business. And you need to be realizing that the losses are continuously reducing to even break even point. And then when you're break evening, then you need to be able to now start making profits. Yeah, so that it really depends on the business cycle. It depends on a lot of factors, on the type of business you're running. It depends on a lot of factors. There are businesses, however, that can start making profits on the first year of business. So it really depends. It can start break evening even on the first year of business. So those are, it's just very different businesses that will apply. But I would definitely, when you're making forecasts for your business, and let's say you are now applying for a loan at CEDA and you want to make forecasts for your business, I would definitely try and be as realistic as possible, knowing that the first few years are normally not as profitable because you are just reinvesting into the business, investing into the business and pushing, and eventually be able to be profitable and be able to also pay the loan back. Because what will happen as well is that one of the expenses that will definitely make you have losses will be you paying back the loan every single month. Those will be one of the expenses that you will have. What other expenses you will have? The charge on interest. You see, there's paying back the loan, right? And then there is the interest. How much am I being charged interest on my loans? Those are the things you have to consider, and that interest as well will actually hit the profit. You need to be able to you need to be able to say, you know what, this is actually money that is hitting my income statement so well, my expenses, and they're actually hitting my profit and reducing my profits. So you need to be able to dissect your income statement and actually see, why am I making losses, why am I making profits, and where am I break evening. It's super important for you to understand these and actually have a chat with your accountant and understand them. Now once you get your profit, there will be tax after profits. That one I'll discuss in another episode, that when you are now making profits and then there is the tax, how does that one work? I've already explained it, but now I'm going to explain that how now we're charging the tax on your profits. All right, now on the next episode, this is something that I've actually thought about, and I was like, you know what, I need to discuss this further. On the next episode, I would like us to discuss margins. I would like us to discuss pricing, your pricing of your goods, your pricing of your services, what goes into it. The prices are different for different reasons. You will find that you will pay sugar, you'll pay the price of sugar for different you will pay for sugar, right, in different prices. You'll find that in another shop sugar is different price from another shop, and there are reasons behind that. You'll find that dishwashing liquid is different price from another shop. There are reasons why there's that type of pricing, and we're going to get into detail into that kind of detail on our next episode, so that I would really like to address it, because I think that's another thing that a lot of business leaders don't necessarily know, how to actually price their goods and services to make a reasonable profit, and as well as to align it with your target market and to align it to your business model. All right, so this is things that we'll discuss next week. I wish you the best in everything that you do. It is lockdown, it is extremely tough times, but we will persevere. We will be here to support you as far as possible. I will start actually now also making a series of personal finance tips, because I have actually made a few personal finance tips on my podcast podcast about during COVID, what can one do now when their personal finances are affected, their incomes are affected. I think I will also do a video on that as well, so that we can discuss videos on a series of videos on that, so that we can further discuss on how to manage personal finance aspect. This one is for the business finances. All right, I wish you the best in everything we do. I've come to the end of my episode and my presentation today and my discussion today. Bye for now.